All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Going Rogue podcast. But before we get into that episode, I have some people to mention. One of which being that the Woodridge Celtic Festival is live on heavyathlete.com right now. So if you go look up Woodridge Celtic Festival, Woodridge Farm Celtic Festival, or just go under the calendar function, you can set that up however you'd like. Go check it out, sign up. Heavy Athlete has just released some improvements for both lightweight tracking and then for premium users, a prediction feature, which I think is absolutely awesome. So definitely check them out. Make an account if you haven't so far. Claim your scores and get rolling on heavyathlete.com. Badger Highland Game Supply, you guys have heard us talk about them 1,000 times. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram the same way. Greg Martz makes some fantastic tacky products, equipment, anything you would need to get going in the Highland Games. We've also got the Strength Agenda. They are sponsoring some of our pro athletes for the Woodridge Farm Games. So the Strength Agenda actually offers a Highland Game specific ebook that you can download that's got event specific training, strength development, explosive power, technical precision, and then recovery and mobility modalities built in there as well. So if you're kind of looking for a one-stop shop on how to elevate your training for the Highland Games, reach out to Tom Sroka over there with the Strength Agenda. They also have remote coaching and other training programs available, so be sure to check them out. Scottish Throws Coach, speaking of great coaching, is run by Matt McDougall, one of our frequent co-hosts on the podcast. You can check him out at scottishthrowscoach.com. They have got it set up to where you can set up. That's really repetitive. We're going to edit a lot of that out. So, scottishthrowscoach.com. You can check that out. Matt McDougall is doing remote coaching specifically for the Scottish Highland Games. So, if you're looking for a way to get technique breakdowns and ways to structure your training as well, go check that out. The Savage Life Company. So Savage Life does a little bit of everything. They have personal coaching, they have accessories, they have flags, they have apparel, anything you could be in the market for. And I've got to say, their shirts look absolutely awesome. They are going to be sponsoring some of our athletes as well and having a booth at the Woodridge Games. So go check them out, savagelife.co. We've also got Stars and Thistles. I'm sure you've seen them making the rounds with their really fun hashtag #BeTacky. So a little bit about them. It's run by the Quarters. It started as a bit of a thing actually from, I believe, Kirsty's father. And so you've got some generational influence in there. And if I'm wrong and it's the not her dad, please don't be mad at me, Kirsty. But I'm going to read to you guys off of their website because I think they said it better than anyone could. They said their story began with a devoted father who cherished the traditions of the Scottish Highland Games and instilled with them the community and friendship that we've all come to know and love. So he's passed down that tacky making ability and recipe to them. And you've got multiple generations going into each batch of tacky, which I think is absolutely awesome. They say in a world that can sometimes feel serious, we encourage laughter and connection. Invite you to embrace this tradition with us and join in the joy of being tacky. So they just wrapped up their Highland Dames Clinic, which I think went over really, really well. You can go check them out at starsandthistles.com. You can get tacky, stickers, apparel, hoodies, t-shirts, you name it, they've got it. They've got some absolutely awesome stuff. So please go check them out. For all the updates on the Woodridge Farm Games and the people that are helping sponsor our pro class and the other levels of our competition as well, you can check all that out at our website, goingrogue.com. Without too much more ado, guys, we are going to get into the games. All right, and last but not least, we do have Kilted Patriot. So Kilted Patriot was founded in memory of Joel Sim. They are working to support the community of the heavy athletics that Joel really helped build and love. You can read more about them on their website, kiltedpatriot.com, under their About Us tab. They are sponsoring the athletic experience as well as individual athletes. That's what they're helping us out with at the Woodridge Games. Their goal is to encourage participation and keep growing the sport, and they tend to really focus on the athletic portion, which if you've ever heard us talk about that here at Going Rogue, that is really what we're big on, is the athlete experience. So we're very excited to be working with them. They contribute for food, swag, awards, things like that. They will have a special award at the Woodridge Games, and hopefully some swag baskets to go along as well for either winners or podiums of certain classes once we get that work out. So they're also working very hard to explore and encourage the adaptive side of the Scottish Highland Games. So if you're an athlete or you know someone who would be a good fit for that, please reach out to them. They are trying to get more adaptive classes at as many games as possible. The games themselves don't have to be adapted. It is just, an implement thing. So they are really pushing to ADs to try and get that much more widely available. So go check them out at kiltedpatriot.com.
Reading my feelings.
Good.
Have any feelings?
That you can eat? I can smell it. So which one are we doing first? The one turn
Money.
on...
Money.
So, then my preemptive sentence for that one is, I think Danny is somewhat right in that...
No, what are we doing?
We're talking about
how to make games profitable. How to make pros profitable.
I will say, though, like, a lot of the people who have voiced opinions do have more experience than I do, and
sure.
I won't know if my thing actually is working until September 22nd. Mm-hmm. That's my caveat.
Sure.
And don't actually take financial advice from me. I live
don't
in
take
an
any
apartment.
advice from any of us.
Yes.
You know?
So that was my caveat before we get into this one.
It's not that serious.
I'll have a different caveat for the next one, but
yeah.
All right. How to make games profitable.
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, the biggest one is you just have to minimize your rolling expenses. Even though I've been told over and over again, experience in other sports and being an AD for, more than 70 comps in and outside of the Highland Games and being deeply involved with even more than that means nothing. Let me tell you, shirt cost is shirt cost, and it's way cheaper to buy shirts and buy a screen and buy all the screen printing equipment. It pays for itself. Hey, look, it pays for itself in a single operation. Like, you already have volunteers, or you can do it yourself. There's no reason to pay someone else to make your shirts. It's not that hard. It's actually incredibly easy to screen print, to screen print. It's not that hard. And it's a Highland Games. And if you're trying to do...
I think it's not that hard to screen print what we need.
What we need. And
I think that's a different, I think credit to where credit's due.
This is super easy.
This was DTF'd on. This isn't even I think that's why it's peeling the way it is.
No, that's...
you chose a very interesting...
That's oil one. That's more expensive. But anyway.
All right.
That's plasterol oil, I think, but not an expert.
We can ask Aaron and Mike, if they remember.
But the DTF route is still far cheaper.
Still pretty cheap. It's on average $5 a shirt, and for a full size multicolor front, $2.50 to $3 a print. Yeah. So
at the point that you're buying enough for Highland Games, it's not very expensive.
Less than $10 a shirt.
Right. So if you want super details and a shitload of colors on the front, do DTF on the front, and then order a screen for the back, because your sponsors, by the way, get sponsors. Your sponsors.
Yeah, that was going to be my thing on how to make the games profitable.
A single color on the back.
Right.
So that's the shirt thing, and then let's talk about equipment costs. Eventually, as an AD, you should be collecting equipment and not having to rent it from someone. Like, either have the festival buy their own equipment, or budget that in, whatever it means, $100, $50. We can come up with the equipment. Make sure you have equipment, because if you have shit equipment, people won't come back. It doesn't need to be incredible, but you need to be able to fix a hammer handle. So have equipment, have shirts, figure out food. If you're not selling food, you don't need licenses in most states. Don't quote me on that. But you can give food away for free. So you could cater in for people. Or this is just for games that feed people, which most don't. Ours all have.
Yeah, most don't, but I've always tried to make meals a part of it.
At least
a reasonable lunch. Yeah.
Because Chad did.
Lloyd's did, and that was always so Lloyd's did, Battlefield did, Woodridge did. Yeah. Yeah, so all of the games that was my other caveat, is Matt has taken a back seat as far as ADing our games. That's the other thing I just wanted to... Yeah. So we've talked about it on previous podcasts, so I don't want us to fall in that same loop that we did with Heavy Athlete, where people start thinking it's ours just because we use shorthand terminology. But
this is Jeremy's I help with things.
All of the Going Rogue games have provided meals.
Yeah. So...
And water.
Yeah.
And elements.
Quality of life. Results and fun. But anyway, they were fun, and that does matter.
I think that matters a lot. Whose fucking car alarm is that?
It's not mine, so I ignored it.
Doesn't appear to be my police car or my truck either, so sweet.
Exactly. So,
God, if someone's breaking into the cop car, we could just record that from here. It would make sure.
That'd be really interesting.
All right, so yeah, shirts and meals.
Yeah, shirts, meals. I mean, what are the other expenses of
shirts, meals, event insurance, which is dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're not the things that make it. If you are providing alcohol or if you are renting overnight camping spaces, those are two things. Or providing a bounce house or a live animal.
Right.
Like, those are the things that are going to jack up your insurance. So I always make it clear to my festivals and my insurance provider that I am the athletic director and I am wishing to just insure the during the daytime athletic events. And then it's $100-ish bucks a day,
right?
Maybe, for several $1 million worth of coverage, which is very much worth it to me.
Right.
Like if something should go horribly wrong and property should get damaged or someone should, God forbid, get injured.
Right.
First of all, I think 99.9% of people here know that they wouldn't make it our problem if that were to happen. But I'd rather have it not need it than need it and not have it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's event insurance, equipment you've touched on. I would say I don't mind renting equipment now, especially this year running one game.
Right.
But I also do provide a fair amount of it. Jerry brings Chief Standards, a set of weights and stones, but I own trigs, I own a hammer cage, I own several stones, I own two 28s, a 56, a 16-pound hammer. Like, it's building towards becoming more independent. That is still the end goal.
Yeah, so
the trailer would be the biggest part of owning your own equipment. The equipment isn't the pain, it's trying to get it there.
Right.
And that's where people then have to weigh the offset of do you pay someone versus doing it yourself.
Right. And all of this comes with the implication that you can, of course, store it somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if you can't store it and you have no access to it and you don't have the funds to get it started, then you can't run games that are going to be financially viable. And that's the truth of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
or you will need to rent equipment from someone.
Or it won't be financially viable at first.
Yeah.
And
which is also the case because, the Lloyd games were in the red. Battlefield broke even.
Right.
The first Woodridge was like $300 in the red. So it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I could have chosen to make the last few profitable, but I'd rather put the money back into the game than what's a couple $100. I don't know. So.
Well, then which, again, a different way to phrase that is they could have made money except you cared, and so you continue to sink the money that you would have made.
Yeah, better prizes, better goodie bags, more food, more water.
Right.
Like, I'm trying to provide shade tents for the athletes on the field so that, stuff like that.
Yeah. So, in other words, for this section of the things, it comes down to the expenses that you do have, minimize, see what you can do. If you're going to spend 20 hours trying to find a t-shirt sponsor, you could just make all the t-shirts. Even if I would make 100 t-shirts in like 4 hours for comps.
Yeah.
Like, that's me and one other person and $500 of equipment I could make 100 t-shirts in 4 hours. So, that's not, I don't know how big of comps you're running, but at that scale, if you're running any amount of them, make your own shirts. It saves you. That was my thing with the gym. I know, again, people have told me that the experience like that doesn't matter, but my first year as a gym owner, I spent $17,000 on shirts between competitions and just normal gym shirts, hoodies, shit like that. And I sat down and looked at it and said, holy shit, I can never do that again. And so I decided to spend, $2,000 once because I bought nicer shit and more stuff than I honestly needed. And then it saved me $1,500 a month. And that's, I don't know about you, but that's a big deal. That's how it actualized. So I added 4 hours of work to my workload a month, and it saved me $1,500. So in other words, I made $350 an hour, $375 an hour. I don't know about you, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Here's the other one, actually on the same tangent, awards. I
was going to say, let's get back on track to breaking down different expenses. So awards is one.
Awards can be anything, but it just needs to look good and it needs to have character to it.
And it also depends on what kind of game you're running. If you are, let's say you're just trying to run a backyarder at a nominal fee for people around you.
Right.
You can just print certificates. You could even pre-print them and just, a dollar store frame that's going to cost you $2 from Dollar General, and pre-print blank certificates where you then, as the
Sign their
AD,
name.
go in and handwrite that stuff in.
Yeah.
Is an incredibly budget-efficient way to hand someone something at a backyarder.
And it's personal and means something. And some of those mean more to me than swords. The sword that says nothing on it that I don't know what game I got it from, that I gave away later as an award to save money. Like,
yeah. Yes.
So
I think things like that matter a lot. But you can also, here's the thing, if you want the big flashy sword to hand out, Amazon sells costume swords for 40-ish bucks.
Yeah.
You know, there are other options. You don't have to buy from whoever that, as Danny said, he definitely funded terrorism when he bought from that knife guy on Instagram.
Right.
So there's ways to make awards. You can do certificates. Chad used to paint gold
Yingling
beer
cans.
cans.
Yeah, I have one. It's my prized possession.
Yeah.
We would laser engrave stuff.
Up north, they tacked a necklace onto a crab and spray painted it gold.
Right.
It's just funky little shit. But there's also
another prized one that I still hang on my wall.
There's 1,000 little shops on Etsy that'll 3D print or engrave you something.
Eddie Williams
does one.
What did Covenanter do? They 3D printed something.
Little Mjolnirs, right?
Little Mjolnirs, you know.
Yeah, and then Bear Prince Treasures, isn't that? That's an Instagram of a guy who's
in Manassas, right?
Tied to the games. Yeah, and he
came into Dark.
He might have, yes.
I
think so.
Goes to the shop, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if it's the same person, but I remember the Instagram was Bear Prince. Yeah. So, he 3D prints that. Like, you can find people associated with the community that make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you even have a little, like, if someone there makes something, there are so many blacksmiths and just general nerds in the Highland games. You can find someone, hopefully. And if not, again, you could outsource it. You could spend the money up front to have your own thing to produce them if it's something you're gonna do repeatedly, or again just Etsy and Amazon and all of this shit. You can find a way to make some sort of award. So that's your other expense. So I'm gonna write these down. We go equipment, shirts, insurance, awards, food. If you want to do it, food is honestly optional. Mm-hmm. There are plenty of games that tell everyone. I say, if for nothing else in liability's sake, provide water. Like, you are the reason these people are out here in the heat. If for nothing else, then you don't want to get sued. Right. Like, make sure there is water around, and preferably some form of shade. But that's a nominal. Your local wholesale club, your BJ's, your Sam's Club, your Costco, will sell you 70 packs of water at a pretty reasonable price.
But those are just good advice. That's not really actually saving money in the game. It's just like porta potties are going to cost what they cost. We can't actually modulate that cost, right?
Yeah. So those are your.
Now we should talk about the other things that you can do to bring in money that aren't just saving.
So those are your necessities.
Those are your saving money.
How you make and how you actually end up
bring in money.
Yeah. So that's different, and that's where your venue or your sponsor dollars. Like you either need to, if you're going to a venue, some places pay to be at venues, and some places flip it. I'm of the opinion that we should treat our sport with enough respect. Even if you're not in the we're a sport, we're an entertainment. Okay, then we should just be good at entertainment.
We should be paid to be there. Sell it for money.
You know, like that's honestly, if you're one of the big focal points of ticket sales, that venue should pay you to be there. In my opinion. Mm-hmm. Experiences may vary, but I think the venue should front some of the cost of you being there, like to some degree. And if you can't market that well, find somebody that can. Find someone that can go in and explain to these people and show them. I mean, it's what Josh has done so well with No Fame, is that he can go anywhere and pull up his Instagram, and he has marketed it incredibly well.
Right.
I mean, if you show a new company, here's my engagement rate on social media, and here's the cool looking shit we do. Mm-hmm. Throwing some money at you to be there is not out of the question.
Yeah, and as much as we love Josh and No Fame Games, like it's the same 9 events. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing intrinsically special other than the things that we're already talking about.
Go look at what his sponsorship packages run.
Yeah.
They're incredibly expensive, and people buy them.
And it's
the same 9 events that people have been throwing for hundreds of years, and he has found a way to make it
It's the same thing that people do as LARPers in backyards, while eating potlucks, which, by the way, are my favorite games. But
20 feet from a corn dog stand,
Yeah.
Like,
or 20 feet from the guy that brought corn dogs.
Yes. So I think one, making yourself marketable to the venue is a big one, and trying to flip that script. Now, the difference comes to where if you are going to try and get a park or something like that, where the venue does not make ticket sale money, you may have to pay them to be there, and that's a different.
And you might have to, and you might not.
That's how business works. I mean, if you want to use someone's something, they need to make something off of it.
Which means you have to be able to convince them that it's worth it to let you use it for free. For example, Spotsy County is letting me use a field, a park, in November for a game that I'm going to be putting on. And, my last game I'm going to put on for a while. Spoilers. Anyway, for a game I'm putting on, but I've already committed to, so I'm doing it because I'm going to follow through because I keep my word on things. And the conversation with them was, it's before hunting season, it's after their agricultural fair. They have nothing else going on. We are pulling in athletes. We are pulling in entertainment. We do have clans and vendors, and it's something that they can advertise and make sales tax money on. They'll get revenue off of hotel stays. They get revenue off of it being there.
Yeah,
it was
money
a field,
spent in the county.
It was a field that wasn't being used, that they don't have to pay any more to have us be there, that they're going to make money on. So, you can, if you can go in, if you have any amount of charisma, and if they're willing to listen, then you can go and talk to rural areas that would be fond of having Highland games and get them on the schedule, especially if you're willing to say, hey, this is something I want to do in 7 months,
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So venues is a big one, and then the biggest one is sponsorship dollars. And that can
in
come
all the
in
various forms.
And it can come in 1,000 different forms, right? So, and again, this is one of those areas where I'm learning as I'm going and trying to figure out what works best for my game, and it's going to be different everywhere.
Of course.
So
let me list off the ones that have worked for me as a promoter in general.
Okay.
So the ones that have worked for me, and the biggest one has always been advertisement space on the back of T-shirts, on banners, and on shout-outs, both on social media presence and at the gym itself, right? You can give a sponsor, most companies, local companies are willing to pay $100 to get, a 2x2, 1.5 by 1.5 inch logo on the back of a T-shirt, So at the point that you have one sponsor for $100, that covers the cost of the screen of putting the sponsors on the back. For every other sponsor that you have to put on there, it's free effectively. So you can make your packages whatever size you want. The thing that we did at the gym that was so successful was for $100, you just got your logo on the T-shirt, and we got a lot of those. We got about 20, 25 of those every comp. And we were running competitions that had 50 to 100 athletes in strongman. And only having 50 and 100 athletes with an estimated total viewership around 300 because people bring families, I was able to sell those $100. My partner, more specifically, was able to sell all those really, really quickly, really well, and in pretty big numbers, to the point that we could expect $2,500 just from that type of sponsorship every single comp. And then you had event sponsors, which cost more money, anywhere from $150 to $500. It kind of depended on what we were doing, because we haggled with people because they were interested, but they wanted to make sure they were getting the right deal, and we had our minimums. And for more money, we obviously did more, let them sponsor more events or the same event in multiple comps. But $500 for strongman, we had 5 events. We normally had this axle is brought to you by the tire shop next door. Because we could theme it, and that worked really well. And
you had a stone lift that was sponsored by Luckstone.
A local quarry gave me stones, and then our stone event was sponsored by Luckstone. So they gave me stones, and
then you gave them back.
And then
so they didn't lose anything other than the money they gave you.
And they lost 10 cents in stones, but it doesn't, But anyway, I went and loaded them myself, so they didn't care that I took them. But I would love to see more of that in the Highland Games. I mean, I had the idea a while ago of trying to pitch one to Hershey Park, because you could make You could make our implements are rectangles. You can paint the faces of chocolate bars on the side of the weights, and it would be cute and fun.
I painted one to look like candy corn when we did the first
Right.
Toy games. Another one to look like Ghostface.
Right. Like,
But,
because it was
around Halloween.
Right. And so, you know, your hammer could be in the shape of a Reese's cup.
I put a pumpkin face on it, but then it fell off.
Like, you could have a Hershey's Kiss shaped fucking, you know, wob or hammer. Like,
I that would throw really well.
A bell, yeah, it'd be it'd be awesome. So trust me. But yeah, like, you know, you can do these things and you can say like, oh well, you know, it's gonna cost money to do that, but as long as it costs less than what they're giving you, and it took a 1 minute email to do that, it's the same email that you just changed the name on and you send it to every local person that's around you.
It's cold calling via email. Like is all it is, and then
or show up in person in a kilt with
so what I was about to say is that's my second go-to. So I want to address one thing first before I get to showing up in person. So the term you'll hear a lot is ROI, or return on investment, right? And that's the biggest thing that a lot of people have a hard time selling to companies. And so the biggest answer is advertisement, right? What is the return that they're getting on the money they're giving you? So Chad Clark told me forever ago, it's a lot easier to get 10 $100 sponsors than it is one $1,000 sponsor. Mm-hmm. And he's not wrong, because the return on $100 onto the back of your shirts that these people are going to classify as advertisement dollars and put on their taxes anyway is a much easier sell than $1,000.
Or give them a shirt. Give them tickets.
Yeah, you can keep doing it, and you can do that. You can give it. Tickets aren't real.
Tickets aren't.
They're not real. Half the time they're not even physical. Right. It's a thing on their phone. So if at my game, I tell the venue, hey, when my pro sponsors come up here, they get booth spaces, and they can come in, and that's easy. That's people that are going to come into the brewery and spend money anyway. And it makes their festival look more full, and like the venue's getting something.
There's one venue selection.
And then all right, venue selection. I'll make another tab.
Yeah,
venue. God, I can't. That's horrible.
Beautiful.
That should have been a doctor.
Yeah.
But so yeah, you'll hear return on investment. How do you sell them on that? And the answer most of the time is advertising, and then so there's two ways to do that, which is there's 1,000 ways to do that. The two that I like the most are either per event or per person. So either sponsoring a pro athlete or sponsoring an event. We've done it both ways at our games to some level of success. Both of those also are nice because they put a finite amount. I have X number of pros. I have 9 events. Mm-hmm. This is now a hot commodity. If you want to own one of them, we need to get this done. And it might help you to push that, and also to be a little. Somebody around 11 o'clock last night was having a lot of fun in one of these neighboring apartments. Good for them. Must be cool. So, it's okay. But so my loneliness got the best of me. But yeah, so I like that because this is just a way for you to phrase it if you're not the most charismatic person in the world. Hammer home that, like, hey man, we have 9 events, and if you want to sponsor one, here you go. And then try and match them up. Luckstone sponsoring a stone lifting is great. A lumber yard sponsoring the Caber event is great.
A construction company sponsoring the hammer is great.
Or if you don't have sheaf standards, maybe the local Sunbelt rental wants to sponsor sheaf because they're going to give you a scissor lift to go out there for the day.
Or
offset the cost even a little, something.
Or you can have even more personality of it.
Make it whatever you want it to be.
A clear view of the lightweight brought to you by Evans Window Cleaning. You can...
Yeah, you can modify these things to their brand. Be creative with it. There's none of this is real.
Yeah.
There's no...
Right,
there's no rule that you have to follow other than don't lie when you take people's money.
Yeah.
Try to honestly... And look, you can't control everything. And as an AD, it's terrifying, right? Because you've taken all these ad dollars, and what if you just get rained out all weekend and everyone loses money? There's a chance.
Oh, yeah.
And if that's what keeps you from putting on games, I understand it. But it's just the risk. And so as long as, in my opinion, you're honest up front when you're doing this with what you're providing, you're fine. I can still sleep at night.
Yeah.
But those are my 2 ways to skin that cat.
Right.
Per event or per pro. Per ad space. Because you can sell a lower tier of just names on T-shirts, small or large.
Right.
You know.
So to go into that, to actually elaborate on that point, one of the comments, and the comment that kind of triggered this, was I responded to something and said that the amateur class should not be paying for the pro class, because that's my genuine belief. In any situation, I don't like that. I think that's a big point of division in the sport. This is my personal opinion.
Look, it is a way to get it done.
You can do it that way.
It's the most effective way.
I don't think it's the most effective way. I don't think it's the most ethical way.
I think it robs both people of what they could be doing.
I think it makes the sport into a pyramid scheme where you're selling the idea that one day you're going to get this money back.
It's the episode of The Office where, how is this not a pyramid scheme? We see, so what happens is this guy pays money, and then we get these three guys, and then those three guys all go.
Yeah, I think you become a Mary Kay salesman, and like you can say, well, this is how some festivals have to survive, and you can say that's how some businesses have to survive too. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it objectively right. It doesn't make it
communism survives via some really funky stuff.
Right, like there's a lot of silly ideas that are proliferated because people say, well, it's what I had to do, and the answer is, but you didn't. Like.
Yeah, or do it less.
Or do it less.
If you're running a game with $30 registration fees and $2 off of every AM goes into supporting your pro class?
Well, if any amount of money that goes into supporting the pro class would have to be after all the AMs are taken care of. That's the thing.
Or in terms of supporting the pro class, it gets them more unique shirts, or it gets them, a set of implements to themselves so they don't have to stop. Like, I don't know.
Maybe, but you could even make the implement argument is serving the amateurs because sure, the pros are getting to use them, but that also means the amateurs have their own set of implements.
Yes.
So
that's why I said that with hesitation, because it does honestly help everyone. More implements is
more implements helps everyone.
Yeah, it's never bad.
More trades help everyone. More judges helps everyone.
Makadoos.
Ooh,
I got this for winning Caber at Radford years ago.
That's appropriate, actually. A local sponsor, you could say.
They sponsored Caber, and the winners all got $20 McAdoo gift cards and a glass. And then all the Caber winners, me and Thor Geifelson for his class, went over and took pictures with the guy from McAdoo's and held up a T-shirt, and that was their thing. So now they had free advertisement because they sponsored Caber at the Radford Highland Festival.
I love it. That's awesome.
That's the other thing, man. Actually, no. We'll get to it. I'm going to write it down. You keep saying your thing.
Pros. So, there are a couple of ways that you can pay pros. I never think it should come from the amateurs personally. I understand that's the way you can do it. We can also max out our credit cards. But anyway, in my mind, pros, you should either find individual sponsors, have a company come in and sponsor the entire class. But if you can't find those, or if you can't make the pros self-sponsor by putting them to work and finding their own sponsorship, you shouldn't have pros.
Danny and I touched on this. If people are watching this in chronological order and don't skip ahead, to professionals being professionals, not just in terms of throwing well, but in general, actually being, and we've talked about it before.
Yeah, if you argue that you bring value to the table, maybe sometimes you got to bring value to the table.
Yeah, and those are the people that I want at my games more, the ones that are willing to try and send emails to find sponsorship dollars, to share things on social media, to help push the game. We're going to have, by the way, I haven't told you this yet because we haven't finalized the details. It's for sure happening. I just don't know exact times yet. There's going to be a meet and greet the night before Woodridge. Cool. So, I want as many of the pros that are in town to come to the meet and greet and walk around the brewery for an hour and shake babies and kiss hands.
Sure.
Because that's how we got the money. Because some of those pros, just like the atmosphere, or some of the sponsors, want to see what they paid for.
Yeah.
And they want to take pictures with you guys, and they want to. And if I, as the AD, come over in the middle and I say, hey, man, after we wrap up lightweight, you're going to go over there and shake this guy's hand because he paid for you to be here.
Yeah.
And you're going to take a picture with him and tell him how nice he is.
Hey, thanks, man. This is what this means to me. This is what it does for the sport. This is what it does for my career. This is the thing that you allowed me to do. This is what these scores did. Even if you had a bad day. Thank you for the opportunity. I am so grateful. This means that we all got to eat, and I hope that I provided you service. What else can I do for you? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. That
can I work with you in the future? Do I live up
that's
to your
the other
goals?
one. You know what? Yeah, it's because if those sponsors have a good experience, they're going to come back year after year and want more.
And they're going to say, I want that one.
Yeah, over and over. You want to guarantee your spot at my game? Make your sponsor happy enough to where at the end of the day he goes, "Are you doing this again next year?"
Right.
Because we'll get him and that other guy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I want to see happen.
Yeah.
So
go on from there and actually explain what it means for a pro to bring value to their table. Is that them making money to just pay themselves?
No, so Danny and I talked about this again last night. So if you want to see a different point of view, go watch the Danny Autry episode. We touch on it. But there isn't a clear definition to it, right? It's just to do more. The pros should be doing more than the amateurs should.
No, sorry, go back. If I'm bringing in $500 of sponsorship, if as a pro, for your game specifically, I find a sponsor that's going to hand you $500, what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you?
You get $400.
And you get
$100 to go into my overhead.
Right. So
a little less after strike fees. Like I
course.
give the pro the flat $400 and I make $93 or something like that. And then that is food that's going to be at the lodging we have available because I've worked it out with the venue to where
and a judge and anything else in the overhead.
Yeah,
and
so
it pays for everyone. So your pros
trigs and trig paint and marking tape and
so your pros by self-sponsoring, by going out and finding their own sponsors, are saving you the headache of finding more sponsors, allowing more people to compete, while also putting money into your amateur class and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I love that.
So it goes top down, not bottom up.
It goes top down, and it always should. Like those that can,
it should.
It should. Those that can must. Like those that can should, and those that like should must. I mean, it's you should help. That's the point.
You should be more marketable than an amateur. Your 40-foot Braemar should be more marketable than their 27-foot Braemar.
And if you can't convince that to yourself, you shouldn't be a pro, my opinion. And if you can't convince that to other people, you're not a pro. Also my opinion, and also true. Like,
yeah, which is kind of the downfall of we bitch. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of bitching about like the good old boy system, but the people that feel entitled to invites.
That's the next one.
Yeah, entitled to invites over and over again, year after year, and sit out events or don't actually try to even put on a show. I get that this is an athletic endeavor.
They get worse every year.
Yes, the amount of effort that you put in at one game may be different from the other, just because you're peaking, you're doing periods, whatever. Athletically, that makes sense. You know, Barry Bonds didn't hit 10 home runs every night. It's not feasible, no matter how much gear that man took.
Sure.
Like, so I get that. I'm not saying go PR every event and tear your body apart, but just go do good.
Look good, smile, be loud, be braggadocious, do finger guns at the caber when you turn it. Like,
yeah, go be Graham Hawthorne.
Literally go be Graham Hawthorne. Like,
which is his first year, and he's doing so well.
Fucking 4th overall in rankings, like, or 5th.
Yeah, but he's loud, he's fun.
He's the best in Virginia. He's ahead of me and John Harding.
People are watching him do the thing, you know?
He beat 3 guys.
Go be Wes Kaiser. You know what? There's an actual better. Wes Kaiser 5 years ago was arguably much more competitive than he is now. That is not throwing dirt at Wes Kaiser. That is just, he's been in the sport for a very long time, you know? Like, but Wes still, after his 3rd K-Birth pull, is throwing his belt in the air, flicking his hair out of his ponytail, and like hooting and hollering because Wes
to do a somersault.
Wes knows how to play the game, and that's what you do. Even if you didn't turn it every time, go do something, man. Make it a spectacle for people to watch.
Be entertaining.
Yeah,
have fun.
So many of you like to say we're not sport, we're entertainment. Then go be that. Go do that.
I love that they say it as a derogatory thing. That's what always makes me chuckle.
So the last thing on sponsorships before we move on to whatever comes next, also look at your clans. It's something I haven't been able to nail down yet because
clans and vendors and
my game has a very small clan presence, but your clans and your vendors are also historically at other games very interested in getting their names mentioned and all of that, or just in the culture or whatever. Talk to if you're just the athletic director and someone else is the games director, be in good contact with that person because your circles overlap quite frequently and you can all help each other out. So look into that. Outside of just local businesses and sporting equipment companies and all that stuff, go talk to your games director because other people at the festival may also want to pay to be a part of the athletics. Mountain Dew. Did you drink my Mountain Dew? Let me smell your breath. All All right, I wrote venue in big letters. Venue selection.
Yes.
Is another way to make the games profitable. So that is the thing. You may have to turn down if the only things you're finding are places that say you have to pay us $3,000 to be here. That may not be the venue for you.
Or popular park with a bunch of gazebos. It's always busy. You're not going to be able to rent out or
like
access.
There's one near here that all summer long is nothing but kids soccer games and lacrosse games. That you're not going to have a spot there. But around us, at least, every county has multiple parks.
Mm-hmm.
There's more than one. And they all have places for people to park, and they all have fields.
Parks and high schools and middle schools and the
Our
sporting
high school
field
rents out areas, not specifically for sport, but they rent out the parking lot to car clubs and all sorts of things.
And colleges have us for cultural days.
Yeah. Radford.
Radford, or John and I and a couple other guys got paid to go out and coach a clinic for people that had never heard of the Highland Games as part of their culture class for the college. So we were the field trip, was they went outside and tried throwing, caber and all the implements, and that was really cool. But anyway, there are colleges and places that have interests that want to do this. If you're having trouble getting started because you're trying to do it in a field, don't do it in a field. Do it somewhere where they actually want you, because people do want you.
Yeah, you just have to find them. It's the same mentality as finding. I was going somewhere with that. With finding sponsors, where you're cold calling and emailing continuously, you may end up doing that same thing with venues.
Right.
I mean, you may go ask 6 different places before you find the one that says, yeah, this is what we want. I've been shot down by multiple venues who thought they were interested, and then we had the meeting, and they said, it's not for us.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I don't lose sleep over it. I showed them what we had. It wasn't what they wanted to do.
But you didn't cave your values or what.
No, I said this is. I went in with 3 different packages of what you can do. Right. Here are the 3 different types of games I can run for you as an athletic director. And then here's a little adjunct stuff I provide of here's a clan list and a vendor list, stuff to help get you going.
Yeah.
And they either say we want 1, 2, or 3, and we want the bonus list, or they say we want none of it.
Yeah. So this is an important one too, I think, to really nail in on, is a lot of people, Chad Clark, a lot of people will do things out of generosity and love and care about it, but they martyr themselves and they say, well, I wasn't in the position before, they didn't charge me, I'm not charging, all these things. So they martyr themselves, and then they get to a point where they are heartbroken and they say, I'm stepping away from the sport. And, that sucks, because the people that are coming up to take over are going to look at those games and festivals and say, but it doesn't make any money, and you're signing me up to lose money while taking on a huge amount of responsibility, while also having no guide sheet of how to make this happen. It's awesome that you martyred it, and it's sad that it's going away, but I also can't preserve this game, and that sucks. So don't do that. Don't do that to yourself.
Don't do that to the next generation.
To the next generation, to the
do
community.
It to the sport. Don't do it to the community.
Don't whore yourself, because
having some level of standard is long-term beneficial.
You degrade all of us when you degrade yourself.
I wouldn't even use the word degrade, because a lot of those people do it out of love. But you... Okay, or I'll change the connotation of degrade. Just as in literally lowering the value. Not inherently negative, not morally negative, but you are lessening the value on paper and going forward of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I guess that has been the tag point argument that I've been having with people and with myself, is if you're trying to do good, but what you're doing is a net negative, aren't you still doing a net negative? And you can say that what you're doing is out of good intentions, but if you are actively hurting the community and the sport and the image of it, then aren't you actively hurting the image and sport and community by doing something out of love?
Yeah, you love the athletes around you and you want to give them an opportunity.
Right.
But are we choking ourselves out for the sake of one more opportunity?
Right. But, it's the efforts. If your effort is fruitful, then everyone's going to praise you. But I see a lot of people that are, whining and struggling in the mud, and people look at us and say, that sport's pathetic. I mean, that's the general consensus of strongman. That's the general consensus of, arm wrestling, and that's the general consensus of powerlifting. Is but they are losers in a field, throwing rocks in dresses next to corn dogs. That is the general consensus. And as long as we portray ourselves that way, that that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Facts. All right. Make it. That's what I've got.
I mean, that's really
on my notes.
We've super simplified it.
But it's offset your
costs.
Make your pros work if you're going to have pros. Look, if this is a backyard game and you don't want to have pros,
or you don't have time,
then you also look. If it's a backyard game, you just cut 1,000 expenses out of there.
Don't do shirts.
Don't look. Shirts aren't mandatory. Lunches aren't mandatory.
Make it a potluck. Describe our favorite game.
Woodstock is fantastic. It's literally just under the power lines at Jerry's house.
Mm-hmm.
He opens up his pool and his grill afterward. So go install an in-ground pool. No.
Yeah. Save tons of money by spending $30,000.
Yeah.
And
it's going to leak.
Country.
It's going to need filters.
Right, but anyway, he doesn't feed us.
Yeah, he doesn't feed us.
They made
shirts. You made shirts for him last year.
I donated shirts, yeah.
But previous to that,
I donated all the money I've ever made in this.
Yeah, previous to that, there were no shirts. Jerry has just acquired in a mass of equipment over decades in the sport.
Yeah.
So Jerry owns enough equipment because he has been an amateur men's thrower and a master's men's thrower, and he's had children in the sport and females in the sport that he's mentored. So he owns equipment for every class.
Yeah.
He owns enough to run a full game. So he just does. He made 2 trigs out of 6x6s that he sunk some rebar into so he could hammer them into the ground. He has an old dog kennel as a hammer cage.
And he had a tip jar to pay for the porta potty.
And that's it.
So,
and that's literally all it was. And he said, everyone bring some food, bring something to drink. Let's have a game.
The judges volunteered. I judged.
Yeah.
It was fun.
There are very much options. Or let's say you want to have a backyarder and you don't have the connections Jerry has. I think it's very reasonable, depending on the region you're in, how close you are to some people, $300 for equipment for the day from your local practice group or athletic organization or whatever, and then another $200 to judges for $500. If you know,
here's the other thing: you don't need to rent a field. You're not putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
You're not making money on it.
Go talk to the YMCA.
Don't even talk to the YMCA. Go show up on a fucking baseball field. Like, you don't have to.
That's the other thing. Public parks are public.
Public parks are public.
The same places that we throw and practice at the park near here. You could have a backyard game there. You're going to look like fools because you're in kilts and stuff, but whatever.
I have That's the thing. Warehouse complex. It doesn't matter. Like, if it's a field, you can throw in it as long as you can legally be there. But, like...
the illegal games.
Yeah, the rebellious. Anyway. But,
like some sort of rebellion in a backyard. Someone should really... Get on that,
yeah. It's too good of an idea.
I gotta find a way to make money off of this. This is simply too good.
So, you guys are making money?
Oh, that's going to be the title of it. I'm going to use that meme as the cover page for this episode. I've got to find a way to make money off of this.
Yeah. But in summation, my opinion, pros should make the games money, not the other way around. Like, you should get more value out of your pro than you are ever paying them, whether they're doing a seminar after, whether they are...
Addendum, we did not talk about lodging. If you're going to have a pro class, lodging is traditionally offered.
Yeah, 50-50 from my experience.
And somewhat, or a travel stipend or something. So just try and build that into your budget.
Maine last year, they put up tents, and everyone had a tent. Yeah, that was great. A tent and an air mattress, and it was fantastic. I loved it.
Yeah, and then at Woodridge, what I did is they have a cabin they use as an Airbnb on site.
Right.
So I, as the AD, and part of the reason I keep part of the pro money, is I took a hit on my venue fee for day 2.
Yeah.
That's almost completely out the window because I wanted to have lodging for 2 nights at the venue.
Or I know Josh, for no fame, had 6 dudes sleeping in his basement.
Yeah.
And he put up cots because they said we can come to this, but not if we have to pay for lodging. Can we stay with anyone?
Mm-hmm.
And Josh
I got room for 2 air mattresses in here. Someone can sleep in my kids' room as long as you're cool. Like, a couple of you aren't going in there.
Right. But yeah, I mean, that's John Harding always lets me sleep at his house because I say, John, I'm more than happy to come down and do your game, but
I don't want to pay for money.
I don't want to pay a hotel.
I bought a hammock.
Right, yeah. So,
I bought the easiest thing I could.
Right.
I have a hammock with a rain fly. Shout out to Aaron George for turning me on to those delight. It's
Yep.
so comfortable. It takes me 10 seconds to set up and break down.
Oh, Chad always had a pro class.
Yeah, and I can go anywhere that has 2 trees.
And
I slept at the field in Sedalia.
Right.
I literally walked over to the wood line and just set up a hammock. It was great.
Chad saved a lot of money, and he didn't have any money, so he was the master of saving money. It's like, all right, I have 3 couches, pick one.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna be covered in dog hair. You're gonna smell like weed.
You're gonna be consumed
You're
by
gonna
a dog.
fail a drug test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna fail every drug
Yeah,
test.
it's through osmosis.
Right.
Anyway, yeah. So keep that in mind if you're gonna have a pro class as well, but get creative with your solutions.
Well, here's one. You don't need a board of directors. They cost a lot of money.
They do.
It's a lot of opinions, a lot of chefs in the kitchen, and it's not that serious. I guess you don't need.
Yeah,
If you're not running a world competition.
that was going to be my caveat to that. Is it depends on what you're going to try and do. I'm not going to try and tell the SAAA they don't need a board because they run 8 to 10 or however many games a year across multiple state lines.
And they call a world championship.
So yes, I get why to add legitimacy you want to be able to say there's a think tank. If this is you trying to run a game, that's what my opinions in this episode have been geared towards. Is Joe Blow wants to start running games?
Yeah.
How do you start that? It can evolve into anything in the world. You could be the next Josh McIntosh or Danny Webster. I don't know. And then you got to change your approach, and you got to switch up the way you do things.
And I hope
it's going to be based on your area and your athletic body.
And we hope you are, and hope that you have success in this, and encourage you to run these things and understand what you're getting into, and that it can be very fruitful and very fun, and it just needs to happen. We need more well-run games. We need more games that are sustainable, that can stick around, that people are happy to compete at. We need it better. The sport needs to be better. I don't know why I keep saying we, but that's a for next video thing.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
Should we switch to the couch for our somber conversation?